I mean, we all know we're going to die, but at the same time, I mean, we never really believe it. We just can't see it happening.
This is the story of how one soap opera death in 2001 sparked a 21% increase in cervical cancer screenings across Britain. Alma Baldwin's exit from Coronation Street after 20 years became one of the most controversial storylines in the show's history, and the debate over whether producers made the right choice continues to this day.
What did they say?
Well, it's bad news. I'm afraid I've got cancer.
Coronation Street viewers first met Alma Sedgwick in June 1981, though nobody expected her to become a fixture on the show. 4 episodes playing the work-shy wife of cafe owner Jim Sedgwick seemed like the end of it. Barry later confessed that facing Coronation Street legend Pat Phoenix in her first scene felt like a terrifying ordeal, with Alma having to tell Elsie Tanner she couldn't have a job at the cafe, and Barry thinking the street didn't take her to its heart when 8 years passed without a callback.
How long have I got?
I can't tell you. It's hard to know at this stage.
What are you asking at that?
Amanda Barry arrived at Coronation Street with an already established career in British entertainment behind her. Born Shirley Ann Broadbent in Ashton-under-Lyne, Lancashire in 1935, she'd trained at the Arts Educational Schools in London and the Bristol Old Vic Theatre School before working her way up through the ranks. West End chorus lines occupied her early years, and at just 16, she danced at the Windsor Club alongside Danny LaRue and Barbara Windsor, names that would become legends in their own right.
I came because I wanted to come, and I married you because I wanted to marry you. You did not get me to marry you.
Film success came with the Carry On series, where she played a female cab driver in Carry On Cabby in 1963, before landing the title role in Carry On Cleo in 1964, delivering Cleopatra with a distinctive lisp that audiences still remember decades later. Those 8 years between her brief Coronation Street appearances turned out to be the setup for something nobody saw coming. 1982 brought Barry back for 8 more episodes as Alma divorced Jim and claimed ownership of the cafe in the settlement, with writers even giving the character an abortion storyline rather than having her bring a child into a loveless marriage. Alma then vanished again, supposedly moving to Florida with a pools winner named Philip, who burned through his fortune on bad investments, drugs, and booze. What nobody watching at home knew was that Amanda Barry's mother had launched a one-woman campaign to get her daughter back on screen. Phone calls flooded Granada studio, with Barry's mum pretending to be multiple fans, all requesting Alma's return, and she even managed to speak directly with producer Bill Podmore. November 1988 saw Alma return for 4 episodes, and by April 1989, this audacious strategy had worked beyond anyone's expectations when Amanda Barry received a permanent contract. 16 episodes spread across 8 years suddenly became the foundation for 12 years as a cornerstone of Coronation Street, with the character appearing in 1,135 episodes before it ended. Money troubles forced Alma to take an active role running the cafe when she returned as a regular character. Gail Tilsley bought a 40% share for £9,000, creating a partnership that became one of the show's most popular dynamics. Rosamond Street's cafe turned into a central location for the show, and that flat above it housed various street residents over the years, from Angie Freeman and Fiona Middleton to Steve MacDonald, Maxine Heavey, and the notorious Tanya Pooley. Business acumen replaced the work-shy reputation from 1981, showing how much the character had evolved. British press comparisons to Elsie Tanner started almost immediately, and Barry dismissed them just as fast. They always do that, she explained, because there was only one Elsie Tanner, and they would go on looking for a replacement that would never come. Alma carved out her own identity instead, becoming the motherly, sympathetic, liberal-minded character who offset the harsh attitudes of the men around her, especially Mike Baldwin. Drama queens like Sally or Gail got the big storylines, comic figures like Vera got the laughs, but Alma occupied different territory as the no-nonsense loyal friend who conveyed hidden depths of pain and loss through subtle performance. Mike Baldwin and Alma's relationship defined much of her time on Coronation Street from the moment she returned in 1989 with her sights set on the local businessman. Oysters were supposed to seduce him on one occasion, but the plan backfired spectacularly when they made her ill and sent her rushing back and forth to the bathroom all evening. Their romance was tempestuous, right from that humiliating start. With Mike treating Alma like a reserve option he could dump whenever someone came along who could advance his career. Jackie Ingram and her family fortune lured him away in 1990, leaving Alma heartbroken and turning to Mike's sworn enemy Ken Barlow for comfort. Mike changed his mind, seduced her away from Ken, and 1992 finally brought their wedding. William Roach, who spent decades playing Ken Barlow, later reflected that of all Mike's many women throughout the serial, Alma stood out as Mike's true love and the one who was genuinely right and good for him. Johnny Briggs, who brought Mike to life, admitted he always enjoyed watching scenes between the two characters because Alma knew how to handle Mike in ways nobody else could. Barry herself revealed she approached the relationship by treating Mike exactly the same way she treated Briggs off-set, which meant poking fun at him constantly. Viewers responded to that chemistry, and the dynamic felt believable in ways that Mike's other relationships never quite managed. Smooth sailing never came for the marriage, though. Children never arrived, and Alma often found herself sympathizing with others' problems, while her own husband patronized and dismissed her concerns as if they didn't matter. Mike's chauvinistic behavior pushed Alma away repeatedly, and she occasionally rebelled against his attempts to control her decisions. £2,000 inherited from deceased first husband Jim Sedgwick in 1995 went straight into a convertible MG, which put Mike out despite having no right to complain. That same year, fed up with Mike's dismissal of her talents and his condescending attitude about her catering job at the Wheat Sheaf pub in Ramsden, she turned the sideline into ABC Catering, with the initials standing for Alma Baldwin Catering as a deliberate statement of independence. Stephen Reed, Audrey's son, nearly became the affair that ended everything in 1996. Stephen attempted to seduce Alma as a way to get one over on Mike, but Alma figured out his plan and slapped him before reconciling with her husband. Mike's nonchalant reaction to another man trying to seduce his wife showed just how little he valued what they had, even after all those years of on and off romance and 4 years of marriage. 1997 brought the storyline that would cement Alma's place in Coronation Street history, and it started with a character who'd been slowly unraveling for years. Don Brennan first appeared on the show in 1987 as a pleasant man who married Ivy Tilsley, but losing a leg in a car accident, watching his marriage fall apart, and getting swindled by Mike Baldwin over MVB Motors' garage purchase sent him spiraling into madness. Mike had sold him a garage at an inflated price and watched as bankruptcy consumed everything Don owned, which Don blamed entirely on Mike's deception. April 18th, 1997, started like any other evening out for Alma, but calling a taxi after drinks with friends put her in Don Brennan's cab, and that's when everything went wrong. Alma had sympathized with Don throughout his troubles, often apologizing on Mike's behalf for her husband's behavior toward others, but now she found herself his prisoner. Don's disturbing behavior unnerved her more with each passing minute, and when he told her, she bore just as much blame for his plight as Mike did simply because she was Mike's wife. Her attempts to appeal to his good nature fell on deaf ears. Desperation drove Don to floor the accelerator and aim straight for the canal, attempting to kill both of them in the icy water below. Hour-long special episode treatment gave the storyline weight, and the cliffhanger ending left viewers guessing whether Alma and Don had survived the crash into the canal. Both emerged from the water alive and were rescued, though Don ended up imprisoned for kidnapping and attempted murder. More than 15 million people watched that episode, with some sources putting the number as high as 17 million viewers, making it one of the most viewed Coronation Street episodes of the entire decade. Complaints about excessive violence flooded the British Broadcasting Standards Commission, but they rejected every one of them. October 1997, reporting in the Irish Times, confirmed the kidnapping helped Coronation Street reclaim its position at the top of British TV ratings from EastEnders, reversing what had looked like an irreversible decline just months earlier. October 1997 brought Don's death after terminal cancer diagnosis led him to escape hospital custody and make one final attempt on Mike's life. Holding Mike prisoner at his factory, Don used a table leg to hit him over the head before Mike managed to escape. Don stole Alma's car and drove straight at Mike in the street, trying to run him over, but Mike dodged out of the way and Don crashed into the railway viaduct instead. Flames consumed the car on impact, killing Don instantly. Trauma finally ended for Alma, and life on the street moved forward. 1997 saw her sell her cafe share to Roy Cropper, ending a connection to the business that had defined her livelihood since 1982. Furman's Freezers became her new workplace, but the marriage to Mike was crumbling under the accumulated weight of his infidelities and his persistent refusal to treat her as an equal partner. Julia Stone became Mike's affair in 1999, and discovering it pushed Alma to leave him for good. Close friend Audrey Roberts took her in after Alf's death in the new year, and despite initially wanting reconciliation, Alma realized the love had died. Mike's subsequent relationship with Linda Sykes prompted Alma to finalize the divorce in 2007, years after the wedding, and she reverted to her maiden name of Halliwell. Moving on seemed possible by 2001, when romance arrived in the form of Frank O'Connor, a security guard who planned to leave Weatherfield with Alma and start fresh somewhere new. Happy endings looked within reach after years of being dumped, patronized, kidnapped, and divorced. Amanda Barry had made a decision behind the scenes, though, and that changed everything. November 2000 brought the announcement that Amanda Barry would leave Coronation Street, with the actress, at 65 years old, feeling the time had come to move on. She thought it was about time she bowed out in the hope that there was one more show left in her, and she wanted to endlessly thank Granada and Coronation Street for a very happy time that left her feeling blessed and proud. Everything has its time, she explained, and the time had come to hand over to the youngsters who she thought were so brilliant. Something she'd been thinking about for ages finally happened, though she admitted she couldn't face up to the emotion of leaving or tear herself away until the decision was forced. Executive producer Jane McNaught responded that seeing Amanda go saddened everyone, though they wished her well for the future and appreciated the loyalty and commitment she'd brought to such a much-loved character. Respecting her decision and appreciating that she felt she had to move on came naturally, and they would work on an exciting exit for the character. The Mirror received word from a source claiming they believed Alma's sad death would have every ingredient to make it one of the all-time Coronation Street greats. Producers made their decision then, rejecting the sunset ride-off with Frank that Barry herself wanted and opting instead to kill off the character with terminal cervical cancer. May 2001 brought the rapid and brutal unfolding of events when Alma discovered that a missed smear test and subsequent misdiagnosis had allowed inoperable cervical cancer to spread to her other organs. Weeks to live was the prognosis, and her plans for a new life with Frank evaporated in an instant. Dying in hospital held no appeal for Alma, so she chose to spend her final days at Audrey's house, where she'd been living since the divorce, surrounded by her closest friends. Mike Baldwin spent quality time with Alma, despite their divorce and his new marriage to Linda, with years of hurt melting away as they confronted her mortality together. He told her the mistake he'd made breaking up their marriage and professed his love, and Alma admitted feeling the same while urging him to reconcile with new wife Linda and with son Mark. Mike and Ken called a truce and agreed to end their decades-long rivalry at her request, promising to honor it in her memory. June 17, 2001, claimed Alma Baldwin at age 55, surrounded by Mike, Audrey, and Ken Barlow in those final moments. Rochdale had been her birthplace on October 18, 1945, and most of her adult life played out on Coronation Street. June 20, 2001, saw her final episode air, just 2 days short of the 20th anniversary of her first appearance on June 22, 1981. Multiple brief returns and 12 years as a regular character across those 20 years added up to 1,135 episodes. Responses to Alma's death storyline came immediately and split right down the middle. Coronation Street spokesman defended it by explaining that missed smear tests caused the rapid cancer progression, and they emphasized the positive impact on female viewers that resulted in a significant increase in women getting screened across the UK. Research later confirmed the 2001 soap opera character's death from cervical cancer produced a 21% increase in women undergoing cervical screening, demonstrating genuine, real-world public health impact. Criticism came from respected medical organizations just as quickly and just as vocally. Cancer Research UK suggested the writers tried to write the disease around the plot rather than the other way around, which led to an unrealistic depiction of cancer that didn't match how the disease actually develops and progresses. A British medical journal paper published in 2003 warned that the storyline could have unduly worried audiences and placed unnecessary burden on the National Health Service, as women who didn't need immediate screening rushed to get tested out of fear rather than medical necessity. Amanda Barry herself joined the critics, speaking out against her character's exit from cervical cancer by pointing out that such cancers take far longer to spread than what the somewhat compressed timeline shown in the program suggested. Finding the tragic storylines not to her taste, she much preferred the comic, gutsy version of Alma that she'd first played back in 1981. June 2001 reporting in the Irish Times noted that Barry reportedly felt displeased by this plot development, having wanted to ride off into the sunset with her boyfriend when retiring from the series, but Granada bosses insisted on a more harrowing farewell instead. Personal journeys that viewers knew nothing about had occupied Amanda Barry throughout her years on Coronation Street. September 2000, just before her departure announcement, revealed that Barry had been economical with the truth about her birth date for years. TV biographies and the official Coronation Street website listed September 1939 as her birth year, but her birth certificate showed 1935, meaning she'd been shaving 4 years off her age throughout her time on the show. hiding her bisexuality mattered even more than the age deception. Theatre director Robin Hunter became her husband in 1967, and they separated in the mid-1980s, but never divorced before his death in 2004. A long-term relationship with a woman ran alongside her marriage, what she later described as a remarkable threesome with her husband. But revealing her sexuality would have cost her the role that defined the last 2 decades of her career. Solicitors received a fortune from her because she believed that revealing her sexuality at that time would have gotten her removed from Coronation Street. Not because of the producers, but because certain people would have refused to work with her. 2002 brought Amanda Barry coming out as bisexual at age 67 in her autobiography titled It's Not a Rehearsal. Long-term relationship with actress Heather Chasen got revealed in the book, which offered candid and humorous accounts of her disrupted childhood, disastrous school life, and relationships with men and women. September 12, 2014, saw her marry long-term partner Hilary Bonner, a crime novelist and journalist who'd also served as ghostwriter for her autobiography. Celebrating being able to speak openly about their relationship finally felt possible, with their combined ages totaling 144 at the wedding. Varied career work followed Amanda Barry after Coronation Street ended. 2003 to 2006 saw her play Bev Tull in ITV prison drama Bad Girls as part of a duo known as the Costa Cons. 2015 to 2017 brought a recurring role as Psychic Sue, a fortune teller in the sitcom Benidorm. 2018 found her taking part in Celebrity Big Brother. 2022 put her in an episode of Casualty, proving she was still working well into her 80s. September 2025, just after her 90th birthday, brought publication of her second autobiography titled I'm Still Here, My 90 Years. Legacy extending beyond controversy over medical accuracy defines Alma Baldwin's final storyline. Cervical cancer killed the character in a rushed timeline that drew criticism from medical professionals, but women across the UK got encouraged to get screened anyway. Celebrity health stories influencing public health behavior appeared again in 2008 and 2009 with reality star Jade Goody's cervical cancer diagnosis leading to 500,000 extra screening attendances and a 70% peak increase in March 2009. Even fictional characters generate measurable impacts on health behaviors, as research confirmed. 2 decades after her death, Alma Baldwin remains one of Coronation Street's most memorable characters. Drama queens and comic figures occupied different space from this no-nonsense loyal friend who conveyed depths of secret pain and loss through Amanda Barry's nuanced performance. Business partnership with Gail in the cafe, 7 years of complicated marriage to Mike Baldwin, surviving Don Brennan's terrifying kidnapping attempt in front of more than 15 million viewers, and dignified death surrounded by friends cemented her place in millions of British hearts. Alma Baldwin's final days on Coronation Street stand as a reminder of both power and responsibility soap operas carry when telling impactful stories. Controversy over medical accuracy in her cancer storyline was real and valid, but so was the increase in women getting potentially life-saving screenings. Amanda Barry leaving the show led to an ending she didn't want for a character she'd played for 2 decades, but it sparked a national conversation about cervical cancer and women's health that undoubtedly saved lives. 4 episodes in 1981 became 1,135 episodes across 20 years, with a work-shy cafe owner's wife transforming into one of the most beloved figures in British television history. And that complicated, messy, ultimately human legacy defines Alma Baldwin's final days on the cobbles of Coronation Street.